Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fantasy Football Fanalsyts podcast. Billy Musio here alongside Bradley Stalder, as always. And tonight we have a very special request. We have a request to review and project the outcome of a 12-team Dynasty league called the Empire League. And I am personally in this league as well, so I'm going to have to set aside my biases. And I'm going to be honest, my team sucks. But hey, we're going to get into that in a little bit. And we're going to rank all these teams from top to bottom, left to right. But before we do so, I just want to remind everybody that the chat is open here. So everybody listening and watching, you are able to comment, make fun of each other, make fun of us. We can laugh together and laugh at ourselves as well. And especially with some of these rankings, have somebody burn it down here. And all you got to do is comment on whatever platform you're from. So if you're on Facebook or you're on Twitter or you're on Twitch, all you have to do is make a comment there. We can click it, make it show on the screen, and you guys can have the banter back and forth live on the show. So Bradley, you ready to get this thing kicked off?
I'm stoked. And also, I'm really excited to hold your biases in check in this league, Billy.
It's going to be pretty easy to do. I know my team is not great. It well underperformed last year with injuries, and I sold off some key pieces to gain some extra picks. So my biases are aside. I know a bad team when I see one, and I'm gonna identify that pretty early here, and you'll get to hear my name called earlier rather than later.
All right, you ready to kick it off?
Let's do it, boys. I think so. Looks like we got about a quarter of the league in here. And so they'll join in, and whoever's able to make it can make it, and otherwise they can watch it on YouTube later.
Yeah, and they can tag each other and banter with each other. This is a very exciting opportunity to engage with each other, especially this is the off season. You know, this is when all the banter happens. This is when the relationships occur. So I'm really excited to review this league with you, Billy, and we'll kick it off with our 12th team. We do it 12-1 in the Fantasy Football Fanalsyts, and we'll kick it off number 12, Sunroof Superman. I just look at this team and I cringe, Billy. My initial text to you, my only text to you about this league was oof to this team, Sunroof Superman. So to give a little bit of context to this league, it is a 2 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end, 3 flex, and there's a lot of bonuses in this league, PPR, tight end, premium, if I recall correctly. So the 2 quarterback theme is going to be very important, and Sunroof Superman starts off with Cam Newton and Kirk Cousins, both, in my opinion, quarterback 2s, and Cam Newton has a very low floor there. So not going to kill him by his quarterbacks, but you'll see the rest of the team and why it just lacks the upside that we're supposed to be at if we're in playoff contention. Kareem Hunt and Devin Singletary are running backs 1 and 2 on this team, along with Jarvis Landry and Mecole Hardman at wide receiver. Look, it's Trey Burton, Zach Ertz. You pick your poison at tight end. Robbie Anderson, Jamison Crowder, and Mike Evans. So maybe we can move Evans into the wide receiver 1 role and Jarvis into the wide receiver 2 role. But this is a very unimpressive starting lineup, in my opinion, lacking upside. And if you look at the bench, Billy, it doesn't look any better. Mitchell Trubisky on the bench. He's the backup in Buffalo now. Jarrett Stidham, the backup to Cam Newton. At least he has that backup there. Mike Williams could be in the starting lineup. Justin Jackson, Alexander Madison, Gio Bernard, Josh Gordon, he's a 0. Jalen Guyton could be something, but a flash. Kyle Allen, the 3rd stringer on Washington. Brashad Perriman. I like Brashad Perriman given the volume in Detroit, but nothing else. And he's got Denzel Mims on his taxi squad. KJ Hill, DJ Dallas, Darrington Evans, nothing else inspiring there. But he has the 106, and he has his first round in 2022. There's just too many holes and not a lot of upside for Sunroof Superman. So, I mean, I don't know what moves you can make to, like, it's going to be a 4-year rebuild, I think, for this team. I just don't see how this team can get much better quickly.
Yeah, quickly is the key word. I mean, I don't like any of his quarterbacks. I don't really like any of his wide receivers outside Mike Evans. And I mean, honest question here: does he really even have a tight end right now? It's all depending upon what
Zach
happens with
Ertz.
Ertz. Yeah, it's very dependent upon Zach Ertz's situation, which is not a good position to be in. I mean, but the rest of his team isn't in much of a better position either. So, I mean, take a look at his bench. Even usually, you see a team that has kind of either stars and scrubs or everything in between, and there's just no in between either. There's just nothing on the bench really. And
No, his entire team is in between. There's no upside, and the floor is like the dirt mud basement. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly, and his pick here, it's literally the only thing that's going for him, and I don't even think that. Quite frankly, if I'm him, I'd probably trade it, and I'd probably look at acquiring another late round 1 and another round 2 or something to give yourself a little bit more flexibility in terms of picks to try to better this team a little quicker, because I just don't think anything you can do this year is really going to matter. And I think at this point, you may looking at teams that we're going to call names later that may need a quarterback, and you say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to give them a quarterback for a pick or two. And but I really think it's time to burn it down if you haven't done so already. And I think you need to do it pretty quickly.
I'm looking at Mike Evans as a split it up piece. I'm looking at Kareem Hunt as a split it up piece, and Jarvis Landry is split it up pieces. Like, those are players who still have value, but you need to get multiple picks back. It can't be like a 1-for-1 sort of deal.
Yeah, and I'd say like Mike Evans, another one on that list that you have to get rid of right now because he's not getting any younger, and he's not going to benefit your team.
He's put up 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons. What is he doing on this team?
Yeah, I don't think he should be on this team. You need to trade him to a contender and get some picks and try to get some youth here. That's about the best thing you can do.
Well, Chewy, we see your comment. Can't wait for you boys to rip my heart out again. And here we are.
You won't have to wait long.
You won't have to wait long. At number 11, in overall, 9th in starter rank, Chewy. So Chewy's got. You'll notice a bench here that is very weak. And you'll notice starters that are pretty solid, but we'll be concerned about where it goes from there. You'll notice a lot of zeros, sans Chad Hansen, which, my boy Chad Hansen. So Baker Mayfield and Carson Wentz are the quarterbacks in this team. Okay, we'll take, once again, 2 quarterback 2s. Wentz maybe has the quarterback 1 upside, but there's risk there. Dalvin Cook, he's a top 3 running back. James Robinson, diamond in the rough. I think he's poised to have a really good season yet again this year. Devontae Adams is your wide receiver 3 this year. Juju, Hunter Henry, Devontae Parker. But then it starts to just fall off. Anthony Ferkser, Jamal Williams, Duke Johnson doesn't even have a team who's on his bench. Jacoby Myers might be a thing. Julian Edelman is dust. Harrison Bryant is
What about
stuff.
Your boy Chad Hansen?
I was gonna get to him. Okay. Look, Chewy deserves to be number 1 just for Chad Hansen. Okay, let's be honest. Except for the fact that he was cut yesterday, and Billy has already bought out my plot in the Potter's Field. I will no longer be remembered in the fantasy community given my love for Chad Hansen. But on the taxi squad for Chewy, Albert OK from Denver and Lynn Bowden. Those are some nice depth pieces, I suppose, but there is nothing to really talk about in the 2021 picks. He does have his 2022. This is a team that he's really banking on his stars and scrubs. And if they don't, he needs Baker Mayfield to become a quarterback 1 if he wants to even have a shot at the playoffs, in my opinion. So, because I think Jamal Williams, he'll hold his own. Anthony Ferkser was tight end 23 in receptions last season behind Jonnu Smith. So there's a lot of optimism, but he needs to have a couple players, diamonds in the rough, like a Chad Hansen, step up. Find a team and step up. So,
When I was punching in this team, I really liked it at first. Like I
Right.
love the quarterbacks. I don't mind. Like I'm a Wentz guy, and I think that him reuniting with Frank Wright, I think, is the right move for his career. We've talked about this on every podcast, but better
And they
O-line.
just re-signed T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, they just re-signed T.Y. Hilton. They have Pittman still. They have weapons there, and they have a good offensive line. So I actually like the Wentz signing, and I don't mind him as on your team. Love your running backs. Absolutely. I think was one of the best running back cores in the league here with Dalvin Cook and James Robinson. Same thing for wide receivers. Like I love Devontae Adams. I love Juju. And I just think like Bradley hit the hammer on the nail. From there, it just kind of falls off. The Hunter Henry going to the Patriots really didn't help your cause for this league, at least. It was splitting time here now with Jonnu Smith. I expect him to run a lot of 12 personnel, but I just don't know what that's going to equate to with one of the lowest passing volume teams in the NFL. And then I don't need to beat a dead horse. The bench just falls off, and there's just no picks for recovery this year.
I mean, you're depending upon Greg Ward and Quez Watkins in bye weeks.
Yeah, and I think that he has, the stars and scrubs build here, and I think that he can definitely get some value out of one or two of these stars to somebody who's a serious contender this year. Pick up some extra picks as well as another player, and gain some depth, both in either the draft or with multiple players. So I think he has enough pieces to make a move. At least it's not something like Center of Superman where you just screw it all together. And that, I'm being honest here, no matter what you do, that team's going to be bad for a couple of years. So I think that Chewy at least has pieces here that he's able to make this team competitive. And let's face it, I mean, there's a lot of these players on his team that can put up 30 points a week. And
they can fill in that gap if it really needs to.
So
sure.
Devontae Adams, Dalvin Cook here are putting together some numbers that are double another running back or double another wide receiver. So he's going to be competitive. That's just my fear is injuries.
I mean, Dalvin Cook, he hasn't played 16 games in his career. Carson Wentz has had his injury history. Devontae Adams has had concussion history. Yes. Cheers. Jamal Williams has had concussion issues. Devontae Parker, let's not get started. Hunter Henry, like he's fragile as a glass vase.
Yeah. And if he had the depth to back it up, this team would probably be
on the bench.
So for me, this ranking is purely because of depth and lack of picks. I mean, he has some players to be competitive this year. I just don't think it's enough to get it done.
Honestly, disappointed in this Chewy Bill.
Oh, Chewy, you got the disappointed card from Dad right there. It's not even like mad. That's disappointment.
Ouch. Because I know you're better than this, Chewy. I don't even know why you're showing up with this type of team. Like usually, like you've got the stud teams, and we're bickering about it. But this one, I'm sorry. This is it's going to be a tough sledding if things just don't bend right. So we'll move to our 10th team, Billy. 10th overall, 8th in starter points. Matt is Tyler, and he's led by, I almost gave it away. His two quarterbacks are old geezers, Matt Ryan and Tom Brady. Billy, you want to share the screen here?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I love that feature actually. So
let me pull it up here again. I
great.
do it so it just takes 2 seconds to click this button here so they can see it. Chrome tab and
good.
Sleeper. And we're golden.
Yeah, so we're looking at Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Chris Carson, newly signed, Cam Akers, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, George Kittle, Sterling Shepard, Tyler Boyd, Mike Davis, who just signed with the Atlanta Falcons. He's got a shot in the dark at Andrew Luck on the bench. But more seriously, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota, Rashad Penny, Tony Pollard is there, Cole Beasley, just put up, some big numbers this year. Benny Snell. We'll see if Benny Snell can hold on to the lead role in Pittsburgh. Austin Hooper's there. Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox, Marlon Mack, who just re-signed with Indy. Cole Kmet on the taxi squad. Zach Moss as well on the taxi squad. And the 109 along with Tyler Johnson. So I think there are a lot of good pieces here. I think he's banking on that one more flex play, and Cam Akers better hit this year because I don't know your opinion on Cam Akers here, Billy, but I'm concerned that it's going to be more of a 50-50 split than people like, or people are drafting him as. And that's going to be really killer if you don't have like a Mike Davis step up for you, or a Tony Pollard step up for you, or another player. Like, that could be win or lose you a week based on just Cam Akers.
Yeah, and I agree. And, I have Darrell Henderson in like more than a handful of leagues, and I've always liked Darrell Henderson's talent and him coming out of college. I do think it's going to be more of a 50-50 split. I probably would foresee it maybe being like a 60-40, quite frankly, with how hot Cam Akers came on, but I still think that that's more than most people are anticipating. It's nice to see Malcolm Brown depart, because I think it just would have kind of muddied the situation even more. So I think he has that going for them, but I think he's got a lot of key pieces here. The Mike Davis signing definitely helped this team, because if they choose not to draft a running back, which I foresee them drafting a running back, I actually have projected, one of the top 2 backs to go here to this team. But I think with Mike Davis signing, I may take a second look at my projections for the NFL draft, because I may have missed something now since seeing that they drafted Mike Davis, or I said not draft, signed Mike Davis. But outside that, there really isn't a lot of depth pieces. There's a lot of handcuffs and there's a lot of dart throws. But again, another team here that if you have 1 or 2 injuries, you're going to be really hurting to compete. And, I think Cole Kmet works his way off of this. Let me slide down so people can see. I think Cole Kmet makes his way off his taxi squad, because I think that he could easily slide into a starting role in a flex position down when buys start hitting, as he came on really hot towards the end of the year. And he does have quite a few picks, so he could trade up, he could trade down, he could do whatever he really wants with the picks. I think he's got some flexibility. And I just want to clarify here for everybody watching and listening, is team 10 through like team 6 is only separated by like 30 points, which is in terms of our projections, not a lot. So it's very tight between the middle of the pack. And I think that anything can happen with these squads.
Yeah, I think it's extremely close. And so we're nitpicking here, but that's what they're paying us the big bucks to do, is to nitpick here. So we'll go through. That's Tyler's team, number 10, number 9 overall, and number 6 in starter rank. So you're going to see, once again, a very strong starting roster, but then there will be a lot of dust on the bench, and that's BU Bear. BU Bear has Dak Prescott and Derek Carr at quarterback, Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey at running back, so very, very strong. Deontay Johnson, Laviska Shenault at wide receiver, Noah Fant at tight end, and then in the flex, Chase Edmonds, T.Y. Hilton, Julio Jones. On the bench here for BU Bear, we've got Big Ben. So there's a third quarterback. Latavius Murray, Peyton Barber, Lev Bell, Ty Johnson, the running back for the Jets. Keyshawn Vaughn is there as well. Manny Sanders, who just signed with Buffalo. James Washington is there as a dart throw. David Njoku. I mean, there's a lot on the bench here. Preston Williams, Blake Jarwin, Andy Dalton. Did you see just recently the Bears tweet out about Andy Dalton?
Yes. Like, not proud, guys.
Yeah, so for those who didn't see it, the Bears tweeted out a picture of Andy Dalton, and all it said was quarterback 1. And everyone lost their minds because Nick Foles is still on the roster. So, yikes. Anyways, so Adam Troutman on the taxi squad, the 110, I believe, is BU Bears. And, as I said, there are a lot of very strong pieces. This is, I think, the best running back core in this league. You've got Dak Prescott coming off the injury. And you've got, Chase Edmonds could be on as the starter in Arizona. I don't know how much I actually trust that Cliff Kingsbury is going to use him and use him effectively. We just haven't seen running backs used effectively in Kingsbury's offense. But If he gets the starting role, we saw him get 20-something carries when Drake was out last year in the one start that he had. So he'll get all the touches if he's the only one. But I do think that that's a position they'll address. So there you go.
So I love seeing, I call him Bub Bear. So I'm going to keep calling him Bub Bear. But I love seeing Bub Bear here at 9 because we had a bet last year and I lost that bet because I was injury riddled last season. And that bet was a $200 bet on who would finish higher in the season. And we'll get to my team later because I still think it's a better team. But I think his team severely outperformed where it should have. He just got hot, and all these players I'm looking at, I still don't really like. I mean, Derrick Henry, Chris McCaffrey, sure. And Christian McCaffrey didn't even play last year. But
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, so he had some really hot weeks. But, I mean, I lost this bet, but I love seeing him here at number 9 because this is where I thought he was going to be last year. And he finished, in the top 3. But, Dak Prescott coming back is really going to help this team. He still has, probably the 2 best running back tandems in the league right here with Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry when they're healthy. And I like his wide receiver core. Julio's getting old, but I think that Deontay Johnson, Laviska Shenault have some bright futures ahead of them. And you know how I feel about Noah Fant. I mean, I love Noah Fant. And somebody on here said, here we go. I'll pull the comment back up. Chase Edmonds isn't going to do anything. And, I think Chase Edmonds could come forward as like an RB2 this year. It's all going to be dependent
Chase Edmonds was RB25 in PPR last year. Like, people don't realize that he only had 1 start, and he was the pass catching back. So maybe they could bring in a bruiser. Maybe they draft a bruiser, and he takes on a similar role. But he's an RB2, and we need to just accept that.
Yeah, and I think he is definitely an RB2 in PPR. I mean, if this is standard, I'm not drafting him as an RB2, but I don't think that he's going to survive the draft completely. I think that they'll bring someone to either complement him or at least compete with him.
Better than Eno Benjamin.
Yeah, better than Eno Benjamin. So I think one of the biggest winners of free agency here has been Chase Edmonds. And I know another site that has him ranked in the top 50 here for overall FFPC scoring. And that's a little rich for my blood, but I definitely think that it's worth noting that he's moving up a lot of analyst rankings. So from there, Bub Bear doesn't trade a lot, so he still has all his picks. I mean, I like the team, but I just think there's a lot of holes, and his team's going to have to outperform again in order to compete. And I just I doubt that for 2 years in a row.
It's you wonder when Father Time is going to snap its fingers and the likes of T.Y. Hilton, Julio Jones, Big Ben, Latavius Murray, Lev Bell, Emmanuel Sanders are just going to be dust.
Yeah, it's like a quarter of his team.
It's feasible. It's within the range of outcomes that this is all of their last year.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, we've beaten the dead Boo Bear here enough. We'll move on to number 8 in our overall rankings, but number 11 in starter points. So you're going to see a weaker starting core, but a lot more depth in this team. And number 8 is Thunder Colts. The 2 quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. So we're very high on Burrow, very high on Hurts going into this year, as long as Burrow comes back fully healthy. Nyheim Hines and James Conner are the RB1s and 2s. T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy at the wide receiver, very, very young. Michael Pittman as well is very young. Curtis Samuel is very young at wide receiver. Jonnu Smith is the tight end there. We've already hit on the Patriots tight end issue and conundrum. We don't know if it's Jonnu or Hunter that are going to run more routes or be the primary pass catcher, but it's you don't know which one you can trust at this point. Adam Thielen is also on this team. And then looking at the bench, we've got Dwayne Haskins, Adrian Peterson, Brett Rippon, Boston Scott. Brandon Cooks is on this bench too, so a big piece. We got Rob Gronkowski. The Baltimore Ravens did tender Gus Edwards, and he's on the bench here. Boston Scott is here as well.
Also tendered.
Devonta Freeman, who's dust. I don't even know why he's on this team. He should Thunder Colts should just cut him. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, AJ Dillon, and Devin Asiasi are on the taxi squad, and Thunder Colts also has the 1.01, and that's going to probably be a quarterback, but he has two very young quarterbacks. So I wonder if this is a trade piece. Like, I don't think you can get the right value at drafting a running back 1.01 in this type of league. So why don't you trade 1.01 to a team that really needs a quarterback for running back plus, So that may be the route that Thunder Colts is going to have to look at, because he's got, the equity at the 1.01 and the 111 and the 112 and the 201 and the 206. And he's got four 2021 thirds. So he's got plenty of draft capital to, to make some moves here. But it really depends. He's got a young team. Maybe that's his commitment, for this year, is he's going to replace the running backs with the draft. I just don't think drafting a running back at 1.01 in a 2 quarterback league is going to get you the value that you need. So maybe, you're going to have to look for a team that really needs a quarterback.
See, I agree with trading back, but I also think that, you take Trevor Lawrence here at 1.01 because somebody asked the question, do you think Joe Burrow will be out there week 1? His knee got shredded. And I agree. I don't think he's going to be out week 1. I think you're looking at more like weeks 3 or 4 possibly. And I don't think they're going to rush their franchise quarterback back. Try to say that 10 times.
Back.
It's like Cool Whip. But I don't think they're going to rush him back and risk re-injuring this knee. So if I'm Thunder Colts, I take the quarterback at 1.01, and then I look at trading back into round 1 even earlier to take another stud running back or another stud wide receiver, because you have a lot of capital to do so. I mean, you have 111, 112, 201, 206, multiple threes. So if I'm him, I take the quarterback because you need a third anyways. Too much CBD lotion, Muzio. So we got you trade back in, and then from there, or move back up, I should say, and you own the first round, and then you can pretty much control the board because you could pick, 2 running backs or 2 wide receivers, or however you want to do it, and then you're gonna force people, hand to either move up or miss out on players. So I think Thunder Colts identified last year that his team was pretty bad, but he made a lot of adjustments mid-season and was able to pick up all of these extra picks to give himself some extra ammunition as well to reload moving into 2021 and beyond. And so I think he's in a good position. I like the youth on his team. I like the picks that he has. I think the ceiling, or the arrow, is pointing up here for Thunder Colts, and I think he did a good job in recovering from his team from last year.
And he was killed by the Aaron Jones re-signing, because AJ Dillon, we were talking in a previous podcast about how high AJ Dillon was going in some FFPC drafts. Like,
round 4.
That's gonna have to wait a little bit for the AJ Dillon truthers to reemerge here.
Yeah, something I forgot to mention too that I had on my notes was the Jonnu Smith piece. So they re-signed White today, which I think is going to take a hit to all the pass catchers here in New England, because that's that safety valve for was Tom Brady, now Cam Newton. And I think that with them adding all these weapons, quote unquote weapons, I would say, I wouldn't really classify a lot of them as weapons.
That's very generous of you, Billy. Very generous.
With them adding all these players to the roster in the passing game, White staying does not do anything to help them, but more so hurt them for the future. But I think that he has a lot of positivity his way in the near future.
All right, positivity in the near future. That'll spring us to number 7 in our overall ranks, number 4 in starter ranks. So we'll see an even better starting lineup here. Kyler Murray leads off D Knight's team, 7th ranked overall. Kyler Murray is quarterback 1, the newly traded Matthew Stafford at QB2. Aaron Jones, who I took him at 1.07 in our FFPC draft.
It was way too early, but yes.
I don't know. I loved it. I felt good about it. Austin Eckler there at the running back 2, Brandon Ayuk, and DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver 1 and 2, Robert Tonyan.
Wait, hold up, Bradley. Do you hear that sound?
You're pouring it out.
That's me pouring one out for you for that Aaron Jones pick. But okay, keep going.
Wow. I didn't realize you hated Aaron Jones.
I don't hate him. That's just pretty early.
Wow. I mean, so I had 1.07, and I mean, the top running backs were off the board, and I didn't want to take a wide receiver at that point. So I wanted a running back. Fair enough. I wanted a running back who at least had a chance to be a running back 1 overall. Get out. Get out, Josh. You're just jealous. Okay, anyways, so but here's the thing. The flex plays for D Knights are very strong. Allen Robinson, your boy Corey Davis, Will Fuller. He was wide receiver 7 or 8 before his suspension last year in points per game. So he'll miss the first week. So D Knights has to keep that in mind, and we'll look later and see if any of these players can fill in the gap that week 1 that Fuller is still suspended. But I mean, D Knights, I think it was actually an upgrade in that Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff trade, because I think Stafford bumped up more than Goff dropped.
100%.
So him having Stafford and Goff is his 3rd quarterback, which is like, okay. That's great. That's to have a 3rd quarterback in a 2-quarterback league. That's going to be enormous. Carlos Hyde on the bench, Malcolm Brown, Larry Fitz, Gerald. We expect him to retire soon. Alan Lazard up there, Melvin Gordon also there in the running back spot as your running back 3. Not a bad running back 3. Isaiah McKenzie is there. Eric Ebron is there. LaMichael Pirine. Some of these are usable pieces. Some of them are just gross. So nothing really on the taxi squad. Jacob Eason, and then there's a late 2nd round pick. That's probably the most meaningful pick for D Knights. So ultimately, I think he's got a really, really strong starting group, and he's got a couple depth pieces that will also be useful to him, but I don't know if it's enough to get him to the championship in this league.
Yeah, it breaks down to depth for me with this squad, and I just don't think outside of the original roster that he has enough. And I personally believe that people are overdrafting Brandon Ayuk this year. We've seen the FFPCs going around like 4 and 5, where I'd rather hold off and take Debo in round 9 or 10. I just think that Brandon Ayuk's rookie campaign was propped up by the fact that Debo and Kittle were out most of the year, and the entire running back core. So for those of you who can't see red and gold in the back, I follow that team quite a bit. I just think that I'm not taking away what he did as a rookie. I thought he had a good year, but I just think it was definitely because of people being out. I do have to say, though, that Will Fuller, he could be this year's Stephon Diggs. And drafted in that seventh round that people kind of signed off on, that he's not going to really do anything again. And I'm not saying Tua is going to be Josh Allen. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that you could potentially be getting, a much higher round talent at a later price. And I know this draft's already been concluded, but I'm just talking from an ADP perspective, that Will Fuller is being overlooked in drafts. And I think that Will Fuller, if he stays healthy, of course, is the big F. Will Fuller, it could have another top 12 finish in him at the position. Not to forget, though, Melvin Gordon is also looking at a possible suspension for a DUI case from last year. So if that stays true to the way the NFL does, it's probably looking to be a 4-game suspension, just like Herndon had last. And
he will appeal and probably reduce it down to 2, but he may miss games. I think that's a reality you have to brace for.
Yeah, and I think that's a real possibility. So you have Will Fuller missing week 1. You have a real possibility of Melvin Gordon missing week 1. So I think there's some pieces to fill here. So you better do well in the draft and hope for the best.
Okay, love it. D Knights at 7. We'll jump to 6 here, and that is, well, Billy, that's you.
That's me.
So you need to shut up while I talk about your team.
No problem.
Okay, Billy's team, we're looking at the two quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yikes, Jimmy G.
Okay, I thought that you were going to be quiet here.
No, I'm just going to say yikes.
Okay, yes, it is yikes. David Montgomery, Damien Harris at running back, DJ Chark, at wide receiver, Michael Thomas also at wide receiver, TJ Hawkinson. I know this is probably one of those leagues where you went out and either drafted or bought TJ Hawkinson, but
paid for him.
You paid for him, probably paid a pretty penny. But Deebo Samuel is there, Courtland Sutton, Dallas Goedert. There just seems like a lot of solid players there, like flex plays. Like, yeah, it's flex play. But we do have you ranked as 10th in starter points. So 6th overall, 10th in starter points, which indicates that there's more depth here. There are some pieces that will look on the bench. And with the word coming out initially out of New Orleans, Jameis Winston seems to have the leg up over Taysom Hill, and that would really buoy the floor that Jimmy Garoppolo is leaving you with. So Jameis Winston, maybe we can push him into the starting lineup. Taylor Heineke is he's going to be the quarterback too for Washington. We'll see where Leonard Fournette drops, because playoff Lenny looked like a legitimate player, but the reports out of Tampa Bay are that he and the Bucs are kind of far away, and the Bucs have signed almost everybody to return back except Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, and maybe just a couple of ancillary pieces. But I like Kendrick Bourne as a depth piece here. I really like Sony Michel and Damien Harris. I know that sounds bad, but we know that if the Patriots are not going to be passing, they're going to be running, and it can't all be Cam Newton.
And Damien Harris looked good last year towards the
both of them did. Both
yeah.
Sony Michel and Damien Harris averaged over 5 yards a carry. Like, this is a team who can successfully run the ball and has schemed so. So I really do like, if you want a dirt cheap running back, if you need dirt cheap running back, Sony Michel is definitely, someone that we got to keep our eyes out for here. Hayden Hurst as a good tight end too. He was tight end 9 overall last year, even though it felt gross. Royce Freemy, he'll never get his shot. Sorry, Billy. Paris Campbell is there as well. Paris Campbell's been hurt by injuries in the past. We'll see if he can flourish and recover in Frank Reich's offense led by Carson Wentz. Kyle Rudolph did sign his tender, so he's good to go with the Giants. And Henry Ruggs is a bye week fill-in. Hopefully he scores a 40-yard, 60-yard touchdown. So I'm looking here at nothing really to speak about on Taxi Squad, but Billy, you got the 1.03, and that can fill in a gap. So I don't know. What are you thinking? Quarterback, running back? Like, I think that those are equally, needs on this team, and maybe the quarterback can be alleviated if we get more clarity on Jameis Winston, but probably go running back at 103 is my guess.
Yeah, Steve has a good comment here. This would be a killer best ball team, but it's not best ball, unfortunately. So the 103, I think, is something I may even trade back in. I'm open to doing that because I personally believe Jameis Winston wins this job down in New Orleans, which would give me, that second quarterback, because I don't really count Jimmy G as my second quarterback right now.
Ouch.
So if I don't trade back, I'm more than likely going to take a quarterback just to shore up that position, and then hope for the best for my New England running back tandem. I am going to be honest here. Kendrick Bourne was picked up last year because my team was just injury riddled between Michael Thomas and DJ Chark. And I traded for TJ Hawkinson here. I traded it to Josh. Who was it? Godwin. I gave him Godwin in the third, and I got that extra first next year. And TJ Hawkinson. So I looked to the future because I had a lot of wide receiver depth. I didn't really need Godwin. I wanted to pick up a pick, and then I wanted a player who I thought was going to be the focal point of the offense, which turns out to be correct because we've seen the wide receivers that they've added here in Detroit, and the likes of Perriman, Tyrell Williams don't really, spark, or should I say they don't really shout championship players, where I think Hawkinson is going to take on, and this is what we talked about 2 months ago. I think Hawkinson takes on that George Kittle role inside Detroit and is looking at 110, 120 plus targets for 2021.
I will be interested to see if, after we go through the draft and after the free agents really, the dust settles on those, where your projections actually will land, because it's going to be, like we say 110, 120 targets right now, but like what kind of target share are we talking about? Are we talking about a 23% target share, 24% target share for TJ Hawkinson?
Without looking at notes or paper, I'm going to say it's going to be between 23 and 26%. And that's a wide range. It's a wide range, but it's also a high range for a tight end.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm that bullish on TJ Hawkinson. I think he's got the opportunity for sure, but they're not going to take Pitts.
I don't think so either. No way. They have way too many holes to fill.
All right. So Billy, you're sixth. You're certainly, in that you need a lot of things to go right to make the playoffs, but you've got a lot of depth to make moves. If things start going right at the beginning, maybe you can sell that 2022 first to get an extra piece to push you in the playoffs. But we'll see where it goes. It just depends on what you want to commit to.
I don't think this team makes playoffs. I really don't. And I think it's running back core is going to be the Achilles heel as well as the quarterback position, especially if Jameis doesn't win the job.
Yep.
Then I'm in real trouble. But I'm looking more to 2022 with this roster. It's still young. I'm hoping Michael Thomas has, a bounce back first few weeks and I can trade him. And it's not out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, he was wide receiver 1, less than a year ago. So I think that for another squad that we're going to, shortly name here soon, that he may be a good piece for them. So hit me up, send me offers for Michael Thomas once the season starts. And the rest of the pieces are young. And I think the picks in 2022 will help recoup this team.
So Steve just released Jesse James, I believe is the reference here. And I'll retort and say, yes, but Dan Campbell brought in the kneecap biting Josh Hill from New Orleans, where he was the tight ends coach. So that's going to be the replacement for Jesse James for the Lions. We'll jump to number 5 overall. And number 5 is also 5th in our starter rank. And number 5 is Kryptos. Kryptos has Aaron Rodgers and Jacoby Brissett at quarterback 1 and 2. So, Billy, you want to pull up Kryptos here?
Oh, thank you. I keep
Aaron Rodgers,
the screenshots.
You're okay. It's all good. Kryptos, Aaron Rodgers, Jacoby Brissett, Miles Sanders, and Nick Chubb at running back, OBJ and AJB at wide receiver. Mark Andrews is there as well at tight end. Ronald Jones, Michael Gallup, Joe Mixon. So very, very strong running back core, a very respectable wide receiver core with OBJ and AJ Brown. You know how much I love AJ Brown. Does he get 200 targets? It's possible. I don't. Now that Josh Reynolds is on the team, I don't know about that anymore. But we'll look at Raheem Mostert on the bench, Antonio Brown on the bench, N'Keal Harry on the bench, Travis Fulgham on the bench. We got Tyler Higbee, Damiere Byrd, Sammy Watkins, who just visited with Indy, Alex Smith, OJ Howard. On the taxi squad, we've got KJ Hamler, Van Jefferson, Antonio Gandy Golden, Bryson Hopkins, and the 105 and the 207 for Kryptos. So I think a lot of good things are happening for Kryptos. He doesn't have a quarterback, but do you think he can get the quarterback that he needs at 105?
No. I think that quarterback's probably going to go 1, 2, 3, honestly, just because the 2 quarterback league. I think it would be foolish not to take, Trevor Lawrence and whoever the Jets take, whether it's Wilson or if it's Fields or whatever it may be. I think depending upon how the NFL draft goes, I think we'll see the same kind of projected outcome here inside this league, just because it is a 2 quarterback league, not a super flex league. So I think in order for him to get a quarterback at 5, it's going to have to be the 5th best quarterback, or maybe the 3rd or 4th best quarterback. And they're going to have to win the position out at whatever team they land on, which may not be the case, at least right away. So I think he's in a little bit of a predicament because he has the other pieces here to really succeed. But I just think that second quarterback position is really going to hinder him. So if I'm him, I trade for a quarterback.
You should have planned around Drew Brees retiring. Like, sorry, like you should have known. Shame on you, Cryptos.
Yeah,
Shame
we're only
you.
in year 3. So, I mean, he's had a couple years to kind of assume that Brees was retiring. I mean, last year, even people thought he was going to retire. So
Right.
I think, there's been a move for quarterback, but I would say, if I'm him, I'd probably go after Sunroof Superman because his team sucks anyway. So whether he loses a quarterback or not, it's not going to make or break the bank for him. And I probably, trade away a pick or multiple picks to acquire that second quarterback, and which also sets up Sunroof Superman for the success for future years.
There we go. One last note about Cryptos. He has Sammy Watkins on his roster, so an automatic negative 10,000 to Cryptos's ranking.
Last place now.
Last place. Sorry, Cryptos. That's just how it rolls. Okay. Number 4, we don't go far in our columns. Number 4 is also our number 3 starter rank. So you're going to see a very good team here. Josh comes in at 4 with a starter rank of 3, and Josh Allen is his quarterback 1, Ryan Tannehill quarterback 2, Alvin Kamara and J.K. Dobbins as the running back 1-2 combo. He's got the Rams wide receivers at Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods benefiting from the Stafford trade. Darren Waller is there. Tyler Lockett is there. Chris Godwin is there. Evan Engram is also a flex appeal here. Joe Flacco, Mr. Eliteness himself, just signing with Philadelphia, is on his bench. Tariq Cohen. Billy, initial reaction to Damien Williams signing with Chicago. Is this no news or is this news with regard to David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, the running back situation?
I think it shows a lack of confidence in both. I think if they were comfortable with the recovery of Cohen and the production of David Montgomery, they didn't go out and make this signing. I also think there's a familiarity there between Nagy and the OC when he was there as the Kansas City OC with Williams and what they did together. So I think that has part to play here. But I don't think they go out and make this signing if they were comfortable with both running backs. And we know that David Montgomery had one hell of a finish last year, but it was against less than stellar defenses. Let's face it. It was bottom of the bucket, bottom 3, bottom 2, bottom 4 teams against the run for his last 6 weeks. And some of them he faced twice. So I think he's being overdrafted. I do. I think that people are drafting him from, what he did last year and from a volume standpoint, not from a talent standpoint, which I think is dangerous in fantasy football because that
the volume is going to go away pretty quickly.
The volume's going to go away especially with Cohen back in the passing game, and especially now with Williams signing here. I think that it just kind of muddies the water a little bit and just shows a lack of confidence. So I just said all that, and I own David Montgomery in this league, so it doesn't help me any, but it's just the honest truth.
Well, it's not just Tariq Cohen, but also Kerryon Johnson, Mark Ingram. These and Requel Arms said these running backs are getting dusted by all these free agent signings. Like Kerryon Johnson, it's not gonna work out well for Kerryon there in Detroit. They just brought in Jamal Williams, Mark Ingram. They just brought in Philip Lindsay. Requel Arms said they just brought in Carlos Hyde. And so the depth that Josh probably thought he had at running back just took a lot of hits this offseason, just even in the first month or so of free agency. But
a few things to make note is like he has Anthony McFarland here on taxi, and he could win the job here in Pittsburgh if I don't know what's going to happen. I think we'll probably see a split between Snell and McFarland, probably the most likely outcome, depending upon what happens here with Connor. But I also like the Gabe Davis piece that he has here on the taxi squad. Emmanuel Sanders, I think, hurts it a little bit, but not a lot. And it's not like he doesn't have picks. He doesn't have great picks, but he does have some picks to where he could hit on somebody. But I agree. I think outside his initial lineup, I think running back is his weakness, that he thought he had depth from the bench.
Well, and the running back may be a weakness, but I think, as you mentioned, wide receiver on the bench, it could be very much a strength. You mentioned Gabriel Davis, but there's also Marvin Jones, who was wide receiver 18 last year. Randall Cobb, who was very productive in his time, and my boy Chad Hansen just got cut, so Cobb will be back. Hunter Renfrow, I know Chewy loves Hunter Renfrow, but he'll get some targets. Nelson Aguilar steps into competition for the wide receiver 1 position in New England. I mean, that's not a highly coveted role, but targets are targets. And so I see a lot of upside for the wide receiver bench, but a lot of downside for the running back bench.
Agreed.
Okay. Let's continue on to number 3 overall. And number 3 is Stephen DeLue. Number 3 in overall, but number 7 in starter points. So you'll notice, once again, a stronger bench or more assets outside of the starting roster. And it doesn't start out strong when Drew Lock, or I guess Sam Darnold, your interchangeable quarterbacks, are here at your QB2. Both of them could be without a job in the next month and a half or so. Lamar Jackson, though, is his quarterback 1. He's got very solid running backs, DeAndre Swift and Ezekiel Elliott. Also very solid wide receivers, Terry McLaurin and Keenan Allen. And a lot of upside. Christian Kirk, we've seen boom games from Christian Kirk. We've seen boom games from Darius Slayton. We've seen boom from Chase Claypool. Mike Gesicki, we've seen boom games from him. And he's got Ryan Fitzpatrick on his bench. Maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quarterback, too, that he needs for this season. Jerick McKinnon is there. Josh Reynolds. I really love Josh Reynolds going to Tennessee. Someone has to take up the targets. And I think Josh Reynolds could step into the Corey Davis role from last year, which was a very productive, fantasy-relevant role, mostly week to week. Kenyon Drake is there as well. Too bad this isn't best ball. Kenyon Drake is there as well. Yeah, there we go. Jared Cook steps into the starting tight end role ahead of Donald Parham. Ian Thomas is worthless. Greg Olsen has retired. Darrell Henderson, your boy Darrell Henderson there, Billy. He's got Jalen Reagor on the bench too. So there's some depth pieces here that I really do like. And, you know, if Ryan Fitzpatrick can step into a quarterback 1 role, I mean, look out. Stephen DeLue could be a real contender and has a lot of what I'd like to call weak winners on this team. I don't know if they're all going to last, but like Christian Kirk, Chase Claypool, Darius Slayton, these are boom players. And with the addition of Kenny Golladay, I think that actually helps Darius Slayton, frees him up, because they're both downfield threats and the secondary has to respect both of them. So with the 104, 203, and 204 as well, I think that Stephen DeLue is in a real good position to either package up and trade for one more solid flex play, or if that hole at running back is not filled, or that role at quarterback is not filled by Ryan Fitzpatrick, that he can find another way. He's got enough assets to make moves here.
If you're Sunroof Superman, do you trade him 106 for, the 203, 204, and like a late 3 or 4?
Say that again.
If you're Sunroof Superman, do you trade 106 for his for Stevens 203, 204, and like 304?
I feel like I need another piece back.
Well, shit, he needs a lot more than that. When another piece.
I know, but
I think that gives him more flexibility in his draft. He would own the second round essentially, and I think that would help Steven as well.
Yeah, yeah, that might have to be the move. That might have to be. I don't like it, but it might be clench your teeth and do what you need to do. So. Okay, well, Steven can make moves. He's got Darrell Henderson. He's got a lot of different assets here, so maybe this is a possibility of packaging it Yeah.
Yeah, I like Steve's team here, and it underperformed last year in this league. I think he had some injuries, and he had a couple other issues here with some usage in some weeks, and it just never lined up for him. But I think that I think this year he's looking to be in a better position, especially to compete. And I think his team has the youth to be strong for years to come, and he has the firepower and the picks to really replenish and to get better and better. So I like the build that Steven did here. I think it's good. And I think that he can make a lot of moves to better this team as well. So I think that the arrow's pointing up here for Steve.
All right. You ready to move to our final two here, Billy?
Final two, drum roll.
Woo. Number 2 overall, which is our number 1 starter ranked team, JCap. JCap has Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson at quarterback 1 and 2. Antonio Gibson and Josh Jacobs at running back 1 and 2. Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 1 and 2. Travis Kelce, DJ Moore, Marquise Brown, David Johnson. Wow.
Yeah, I remember typing this in. I'm like, holy crap, my team sucks.
Woof. Okay, but it gets better on the bench. Gardner Minshew. Hashtag free Gardner Minshew. After the Jaguars just signed CJ Beathard to set backup money, like Minshew better be like, hey, like let me out so I can free me, please.
I think that shows that they're going to trade him.
They better trade him.
I'm hearing Niners actually.
I think he does. I think he would thrive with the Niners.
I think so too.
I think he would be a massive upgrade to Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that, this gets me so excited. I have Gardner Minshew everywhere. Billy, you shouldn't have said that because I'm getting really excited. Okay, but real talk here, Gardner Minshew, I think he is a capable starting quarterback in the NFL, and I think he deserves a shot, and I'm happy that JCap has him. Jeff Wilson could be a running back 1 or 2. Depends on what role Raheem Mostert is also going to work with this year. J.D. McKissick is a PPR back here. Mike Boone. I've been picking up Mike Boone everywhere, and JCap has the same thinking that, Billy, we were talking off air. I don't know if we can trust Royce Freeman. Like,
you can't trust Royce Freeman, and apparently the Broncos can't. But
apparently the Broncos can't. But Billy's still holding out hope. The 7th,
he was 12th, so good at
the 12th year breakout for Royce Freeman. So Mike Boone steps in, and this was so the Broncos just hired the former Minnesota, I think it was vice president of player personnel, and he went out as his first move to get Mike Boone. And Mike Boone has been averaging 4.5, 5 yards a carry every year in his second, in his backup or third back role with Madison, who's missed games, and Dalvin Cook, who's missed games. And Mike Boone just seems to he'll produce in sprinkles and spurts. And I wonder if he could be one of these deep plays. Like, let's say, for instance, that Melvin Gordon suspended 3 games. Mike Boone steps in as starter, possibly Royce Freeman backing him up. And we're talking about Mike Boone maybe not letting go. Mike Boone not letting go of that position. Like, that is within the range of outcomes. And I think we need to just accept that Mike Boone could be a thing.
Hold up. Pull the reins back, because every time Mike Boone has had a chance at a starting role, he's floundered. He hasn't done well.
Only once. Actually, he had twice.
Out of how many times?
Once.
Yeah, so 50-50, right?
I'll take 50-50.
I'm more of a 52-53%.
For a guy who is virtually free everywhere, okay, we're spending far too much time on Mike Boone. But
yeah,
John Ross, Auden Tate, Golden Tate, because AU is the symbol for gold, right? So he's the new Golden Tate. Andy Isabella is there, and AJ Green. So hopefully AJ Green can teach Andy Isabella a thing or two about being an actual wide receiver. Gerald Everett could be an upside play. Chris Herndon has hopefully upside in this new Jets offense. Brian Edwards is there. And it's not like JCap doesn't have any picks. He's got the 205 and 208. He may not have a first, but he's got a couple picks here. So I think this is a real heavyweight. And I think there's a real teardrop 1 and 2 from everyone else in this league. So I think it's JCap and our number one team, and that's really it for who we're looking for here.
Yeah, when I put things in perspective here, from the number one, from like the 10 team to the 6 team, we talked about it being like 30 points. But the number one team here, go ahead and we'll announce it here, is
Doutzine.
His value from our rankings and our punching in our numbers here, he actually has, with all his picks, he actually has the number 2 team beat by over 200 points, which is pretty significant, seeing that some teams only have 200 points. So I think that for me, Doutzine is just, his team is by far the best in this league, especially from a dynasty perspective with picks. I mean, we're going to pull it up.
You want to pull up.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look at the quarterback position. He's got Tua. He's got Justin Herbert. He's got Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor. He's got DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson. Hey, I got a question for you, Billy. How did you allow Doutzine to have such a stud team? Like,
I'm pretty sure he tanked year 1 and went all picks, if I recall. I don't remember, but
that makes sense.
If back in my mind, I was looking at his roster, and I'm like, how did he do this again? And I was looking, and I think that he had 4 or 5 round 1 picks last year, and then had another 3 or 4 this year, and he just loaded up on picks early and often, and he hit on a lot of them.
Well, he also has Calvin Ridley and Kenny Golladay and Myles Gaskin. Myles Gaskin, he hit on Myles Gaskin. He's got Taysom Hill and Daniel Jones. He's got 4 quarterbacks, so he does not need to really address the quarterback position. He's got Tyrod Taylor, which might be even a 5th quarterback, depends on what happens with Deshaun Watson. Wayne Gallman, Tim Patrick was tendered. Zach Pascal was tendered. Dan Arnold's now the starting tight end on Carolina. Anthony Miller, Marquez Valdes-Scantling has week-winning weeks. Irv Smith. Now, Tyler Conklin, but Irv Smith. Traquan Smith is there too. Philip Lindsay, Darnell Mooney. He's got CEH on the taxi squad. He isn't even using CEH at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
He's got Jordan Love as well, Quintez Cephas. He's got the 102 and 107 and 108. So Andy's got all of his 2022 picks. He is set. And look, I think it's JCap and Doutzine for this year, but I think Doutzine has built himself a dynasty.
Yeah, he's got a pretty damn strong team, and I think it's going to be strong for, dynasty is the correct word.
5 to 7 years.
Yeah, multiple years. This team is going to be in the lead, and
for sure,
it's going to take a lot of kneecap biting to take this guy down. And I just don't know if it's enough. So I think that JCap has a strong team, but I think this team is just, Doutsine's team is just so strong, and I think it's very,
he's got
very
the depth,
very well built with to have all these players. He hit on everybody is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
To have all these players hit and to have all these picks coming up. I mean, it's looking very, very, very good for him. And I don't see it. I just don't see how he loses this year unless he sustains multiple injuries.
Well, I mean, JCap could boom, and JCap needs the Deshaun Watson situation.
That's what I'm saying. Take Deshaun Watson out, and then that team is not as strong.
I mean, let's put in Gardner Minshew instead, and JCap.
He's still second, and
he's still second. I mean, as we talked about, there's the teardrop, right? We take Deshaun Watson out of it, and it's still that teardrop. So, I mean, we took away 50 points. we gave Deshaun Watson 50 points here, and moved it down to Gardner Minshew. So, our projected winner, Doutzine and JCap. Of this league. It's going to be very close, but I don't think there's any other real contenders for right now, unless another team just goes all in.
Yeah, why don't we do a quick recap of positions?
Sure. So at number 12, Sunroof Superman. Number 11, Chewy. Number 10 was Tyler. Number 9, BU Bear. Number 8, Thunder Colts. Number 7, D Knights. Number 6, Billy.
Yours truly.
Number 5 is Cryptos. Number 4 is Josh. Number 3, Stephen DeLue. number 2, J-Cap, and number 1, Doutzine.
That's it, everybody. That's the rankings for the Empire League here. Keep in mind, you have to win 2 to win the Empire pot. So everybody do what they can to take Doutzine down this year, because we don't want him winning next year or the year after that or the year after that, because that's what it's looking like. So make sure that we all gang up on him. Nobody trade. Everybody take away from him as much as we can. A few things worth noting that Bradley and I are excited to announce. Bradley and I have, I'd say, been acquired. Bradley and I have been acquired by Fantasy Data. And starting this Friday, we will be live streaming on the Fantasy Data Network, which is their YouTube channel here at YouTube at Fantasy Data. And so go to YouTube, check them out. We'll be live streaming there starting Friday, as well as on their Twitter page. And we're going to be creating a Twitch page for them as well. So I just want you guys to make note of that, because we're going to be doing less of our own podcast here for the Fantasy Football Fanalists on our sites and our pages. But if you do want any of these league reviews, that is the time for us to do them here, is on the Fanalist podcast and shows. But make sure to follow us on the Fantasy Data Network as well. We thank every single one of you guys for logging in here and for listening to us rank this league. It's always really fun to have this interaction and to be able to rank these leagues and see the outcomes of our projections, and to use our skills to project the winners of these leagues. So thank you for hiring us. Thank you for having us on. And we look forward to doing more of these in the future. And have a good night, guys. And thank you very much.